Hello, Vax Choice community. Thank you so much for joining us today with Know Your Rights, our wonderful hosts, Dawn and Chris. How are you ladies today?
Doing well.
Doing well here, too.
Great, great. And then today's special guests are Lisa McGee, oops, this way, and me, Melissa McAtee. We're going to have a discussion of biblical proportions today. We're going to talk about the beast system, how alchemy plays a part in the forced evolution that is being done on humans.
Undertaken. Yeah.
Yep, and we're gonna dig about into that today. Lisa's got some great research for us, and I'm sure we all have great insight and opinions to guide the masses and to share some ideas. So,
Yes. It's great to be here. And I think I mentioned last week we were going to have Lisa, but she was in the middle of some rainstorms. Looks like she weathered that. So
Yes.
you guys didn't have too much damage, did you, Lisa?
Well, Charlotte was pretty bad. There's significant flooding. This massive trees down. People were out. There was like 40,000, an area where 40,000 people didn't have power for 2 days, 2 or 3 days. It was pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got family in Charlotte. So
Yeah.
so,
But like I said, look, everything's back to normal now.
Yes, everything's back to normal, and there were no, fatalities or serious injuries. So that's good. They were planning for it. I think that that the whole East Coast with Hurricane Debbie was prepared for but Charlotte's in this pocket where it just gets this wind. I mean, we had 70-mile-per-hour winds in the city.
Wow. And those might as well be like tornadoes when they're that fast. Yeah, we've suffered that some here. Well,
but thank you for having me again.
Yes, we're so glad to have you. In our discussion last week, we kind of a precursor to today's topic and show. We talked about the days of Noah and what that meant, and what the Bible tells us about what has the plan sort of been from the beginning, from creation, the creation of humanity. What has the enemy's plan been? And I think we can all agree we're sort of in the midst of that plan, right? Or them trying to execute that plan. Mm-hmm. And that's, the research. I think we can call you an expert researcher at this point. You've become so adept at that, and God just points you in the right direction, and you find the things, and you're able to assimilate it. So, I mean, we can give the floor to you, unless anybody else has anything they want to share. But we want to talk about, what is this technology that's out there? How are they trying to put it in us? And how do we steer clear of it?
Well, thank you. And Dawn, that was very kind of you to say. And I it's been for all of us, right? This journey of just understanding and opening our eyes to concepts that we didn't know, or, we study the Bible and then we see some of those, the frightening things in the Bible that they're telling us that we've been told is being executed in ways that we need to, and interpreting that in what is the realness of pharmaceutical scientists, this, and it's this idea of the beauty of science and what that was, and then the capture, the hijacking of that in a very demonic, AI technology that we are seeing now. And from starting this research, I have always been a researcher, but seeing what is going on, it has really just been overwhelming at times, but I mean, still doing it, but just the value, the overwhelming reality of this ancient practice of alchemy. I mean, that's where I put this together. And I have to just share with your audience, because I know, well, all of the four of us are extremely spiritual and connected, and have a relationship with God and Jesus, and we walk that light. But I was struggling a couple of months ago with the research, just because I just thought, it was just in this belly of the beast, as so many people are finding things. And when you peel it away, you just find more and more, but you never get to a bottom. It's just an abyss of just yuck, and just destruction and cruelty. And I was struggling with it and went to bed that night praying about it. And I woke up and it was a voice. and it said it's alchemy.
Hmm.
And it was so profound and just this, oh my gosh. So dove into that, and I knew a little bit about that, had researched that in the past. And the idea of that is a transmutation. And thank you, Melissa. It's an idea that, or a concept and a reality of the ability to, or the goal, the intent, the practice of transforming in order to transmute one element to another, one species to another, the ability to be able to take resources that exist already and mutate them, play with them, tweak them. And I'm dumbing this down a little bit, but you get the concept. To alter them into a state to where they benefit those that are mutating them. And biblically speaking, Melissa, there was one, it was the thought company link that I sent you, that, or the biblical, how is alchemy described biblically or used? Several scriptures talk about where this practice has been in play. It is this, the idea to use humanity's resources to create an elixir to transcend and create an eternal life. So when you think about, and the word pharmakeia, I don't know. Yes, thank you, Chris. Obviously we know what that is. The audience might not know. The definition of that is so spot on about what they are doing, this transformation of through poison, chemical compounds, and literally altering the state of a being. And through this research, and I think we are seeing this again, all of us, is we are in a spiritual battle with an enemy that does not consider themselves to be a part of humanity. And those maybe, the recruits like the Faucis and the, Collins and take your pick with FDA and scientists, possibly groomed. I mean, I think there was an inception with them being groomed early on, seeing signs of narcissism, brilliance, and then taking these individuals and just grooming them to become part of the team, the enemy. And so creating this mindset where it isn't us and them, us being humanity, them being the enemy. And it is there's been many ways that they have been able to infiltrate the biological system, but vaccines and patented viruses are what we are dealing with today and have been for decades. And I believe that they have captured and harnessed early centuries ago extremely volatile and toxic and corrosive bacteria that were harmful to humanity's systems. And that's human, non-human, plants, soil life. But they captured those and they started to morph those and mutate those and be able to program them to where they are. That is where they go in and they alter the biological system.
So the whole gain of function is
absolutely yes. Yes, and it's very critical, very important. A strategic component of this is that what we're seeing now, and again, it's been going on forever, and now they're blatant about it. They Melissa, you said this so great in an email yesterday. They are mocking us. They're mocking us now with the sloth. They're mocking us now. I mean, they put it in their patents, and we've talked about this before. All this. When I started researching these patents, this is a recipe book that they pass down to each other. They have their handlers each century or each decade, and they just pass these down. And as we advance with technology, these recipes advance. They really began with the same, the basic, extremely toxic bacterias, and they've created weapons. I mean, these are weapons, and I've actually gone so far now, because this is God-driven research. Satan has a slew of formats of soldiers and his followers, and horrifically toxic pathogens and yeasts, why can't we say that those are that Satan put those, that's a form of his soldiers?
Mhm.
They're referred to as foreign invaders. They're referred to as agents, in these patents. They've been mutated and tweaked to be able to come in and set up domain in our systems and hang out for a while. They disguise themselves as a friendly bacteria, and they can set up shop for sometimes
Parasites.
6 rabies.
Yeah.
You think of rabies is not a normal pathogen or a virus that can go into animals and even humans, and it can sit dormant for 6 months. Our bodies will accept it. It presents itself as being somewhat friendly and environment, and compatible, and then all of a sudden it will attack, and it attacks the entire system. It will cause sepsis. It will cause encephalitis. It will cause that's not a normal function of a bacteria or a yeast. So it does make you think, or make it. I truly believe that we are these invaders, and a lot of this bacteria that is being trafficked into humanity. And the beasts that we are fighting is the world's most horrifically ruthless and cruel. They are human traffickers, because these are contaminated with DNA, and the zoonotic. I mean, that was very strategic, because the enemy wants this commodity of humanity to be able to ebb and flow with one another. Human DNA can flow with an animal's DNA, a pig's,
Yeah.
And vice versa, with a plant, with a soil, with a crop.
Mhm.
So that's a lot that I've just,
Yeah.
but it really, and when you start to see it this way, and they tell us, they spell it out for us,
Yeah.
this laced, I mean, these bacteria are just soaked and programmed with extremely harsh chemical compounds. That's another component with the transmutation. You need to have chemicals. Pharmaceutical is about the transformation and the use of chemicals specifically. It says that in that definition. So it's an alteration, it's a transforming, it's a transmutation of the organic biological system, our circuits, because humanity, each and every one of us, it is a software system. The nervous system is the circuits, the energy, the electrical components. The brain is the, hard drive. So when you bring in these, and when you think about an actual, each of us, all of us have computers now. They call them viruses when something gets into that hard drive and causes it to weaken and mishap and cause, mutations. So
Yep.
we are in a mirrored image of that technical AI format, is what they're doing, causing weaknesses, causing vaccines and viruses to our software system.
Yeah.
To infiltrate it.
Yep. Well, and they program us, the predictive programming, with regard to thinking that, mishmashing our DNA with animal DNA is good, like, insulin and all these other supposed, good things that are actually derived from animal cells. And people think, oh, that's a good thing. I mean, I can remember when I first heard of, mRNA years ago, prior COVID, I thought, oh, that's going to be the breakthrough to cancer. That's awesome. I mean, they were really predictive programming people to think that this was a good thing. Right. So, yeah.
Well,
To me, it was a bad thing, the CRISPR-Cas9, because I first learned about it in the King Kong versus Godzilla.
Oh.
Because it says they were CRISPR, that they CRISPR'd the King Kong. And so I remember when I was searching the Pfizer database and saw CRISPR all over the place, I was like, what? I thought that was in a movie. And that's when I learned it was real. I thought it was a theory up to that point.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Well, and it's another thought, that concept that people need to, I think, wrap their heads around, and understand, is that, again, this us and them mentality is we have been forced to evolve into this machine of supply and demand. We keep that commodity, we keep that financial, express train for them going. And so it's this it's this dysfunctional relationship between pharmaceutical illnesses and then, which our bodies have created through pollution and through, drugs. I mean, these pharmaceutical drugs, obviously, they provide a remedy for a particular ailment. But somewhere in the body, those chemicals are causing stress and dysfunction to another area because our bodies are designed, excuse me, to fight those foreign invaders that come in. Pollution, chemtrails, these particles that are raining on us. That is, we've advanced in this technological world, and pollution is going to exist. But now, was that all part of this plan?
I think so. I definitely think so.
Me too, Dawn.
The thought sort of occurred to me today as I was listening to a pharmaceutical commercial. I don't remember which company, but it was a medicine for thyroid eye disease. And I just remember thinking, how does the eye have a thyroid? Or I'm no doctor or medical professional, but those just don't even sound like they go together.
I think your thyroid together. Your eyes, is that it?
I don't know, but what the thought that kind of hit me was, we've created all these diseases.
Yes.
Like
we
didn't have any of these before we had the pharmakia that was supposed to be the solution for all this.
We didn't have Alzheimer's. We didn't have any of this back in the day.
No.
I mean, none of it.
Well, it's like we've created it, and that's another, pharmakia means sorcery. It's magic. It's magic.
Yes.
It's the hidden knowledge. It's the fallen angel technology.
Yes.
It goes all the way back to biblical times.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And there really is. And Dawn, you've said it. I mean, when I call them these recipes, they're spells. These patents. I mean, because it is about alteration. It is absolutely about alteration and the intent. And they say it. They list it on there. The intent to cause disruption. They use the terms they use the term foreign invaders. They use the term, another thing the way that I now process this, or my thought is, we can start to call these viruses and vaccines employees of those that own them and employees of those that made them, because they actually refer to them as agents. They're referred to as causative agents. Now, you think of an agent, that is a worker bee for somebody. That. Oh, thank you, Chris.
Of who is behind it.
Yep.
And they are, and our governments plural, global, but our governments, the United States, and agencies, when you start looking into these patents, they don't advertise right up front. FDA is going to alter your DNA. CDC, somewhere down, on page 56 of a 57-page, there it is, funded by this. We've got ownership in this. Most often it is, in the first or second pages. And then when you start to go, and they're hard to read. I mean, obviously, they're, but you will see that even if they don't have ownership, outright, or they say it somewhere in a third or fourth layer.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Uh-oh.
We lost you, Lisa. Hang on. We lost your audio.
That's weird.
We can see your lips moving, but we can't hear you. That's interesting.
Yeah, Lisa, I'm going to kick you out. Come back in, okay? It looks like your internet's fine, so that's weird. She'll come back in.
Something real sensitive there.
Yeah, exactly. Must have been important.
Lisa gets hit the hardest with this kind of stuff. It seems like no matter what she does, no matter where she is, no matter what improvements she makes, she's got issues.
Oh, I'm sure they've got her pegged. I'm sure.
Yeah,
they're all pegged.
Yeah.
So, which is fine.
I think their purpose, and I think we talked about this a little bit last week, is twofold, right? It's one, because they're jealous of humanity and the relationship we have with our Creator. But I also think it's because, and I was kind of reminded of this morning as I was watching a video, that the Nephilim they're looking, once they died originally, they're just disembodied spirits. They don't, and they're looking for something to inhabit.
Mm-hmm. It's actually not fallen angels that are the demons. A lot of people tend to think that the demons are the corrupted genes of the Nephilim, like you said. But something that I always thought was interesting, and this was before I read Enoch or before I came to the understanding of what the Nephilim were. I watched this near-death experience of this guy who died and had this near-death experience, and he said that he saw demons and that they were human-animal hybrids, that they weren't like what people think. So like when you see Baphomet, for example,
they're all.
That is what the Nephilim are, is that it's combining this human and animal thing going on. And it's the sick creation of these watchers or fallen angels, whatever you want to call it. And so, sorry, Lisa, we were just kind of talking about like the Nephilim and what we know about them. And can we hear you talk?
No.
Oh, wow.
That is so odd. Say something again.
Maybe go to your settings, Lisa. It's the gear icon there, and then go to audio and see if anything's changed. It changed when you were mid-speech, so
yeah,
that's odd. I don't think that's it, but maybe if I kicked you out and brought you in, it changed your settings. Oh, well, that's a shame. I hope we can get that figured out. But yeah, so something that I kind of wanted to touch on to tie this into things like Pfizer is when I was working there and I was searching their database, one of the things I searched in their database was 666. Obviously, that's something you would go to. And I found this in their database, which, here, let's see if I can make it bigger. So this is a Pfizer document, and it says Wuhan, China. Okay, look what the address is.
Oh, wow.
Of the Pfizer Research and Development Lab in Wuhan, China. Look at that.
Wow.
And like some people, 666 is good luck in China. Okay, well, that doesn't make me feel any better, especially since China's image is the dragon. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
The symbology and the numbers mean a lot to them. I mean,
literally in the Satanic Bible, it makes fun of people who think symbols are nothing. It makes fun of them. It says those who think symbols are nothing, we will always win because the symbols win. That's why, and I hate to say this, I've done deep research on this part. The Mormon Church, they have upside down pentagrams and circles all over their main temple in Utah.
Yeah,
they're on all the entrances. So everybody who walks in through that entrance goes through a satanic pentagram.
Yeah.
And he went from a 0 to a level 33 degree Mason in a weekend. So that should tell you all you need to know when it comes to
heavily tied in with the Freemasons. And I don't know if we've talked about Freemasons a whole lot here, but what is their book? Morals and Dogma. Have you heard of that? That's like their guidebook. Their kind of their.
I can't say.
But that book talks about how Masons worship Lucifer. I mean, they are not Christian.
Not at the top levels. People up to level 30 think that they're part of this spiritual brotherhood of some sorts. Mm-hmm. It's weird because in order to join, you must believe in a higher power, but they don't teach one God. And that
higher power is.
Yeah, they think that the higher power is Lucifer. And I mean, Lucifer means light bringer, and stuff like that. So they call themselves the enlightened ones.
Well, I can tell you, my uncle was a Mason, lower level. My aunt was in the Eastern Star, which is the women, and I was in Rainbow Girls. I didn't know at the time I was a kid, but it was all God and Bible. I mean, I was a Christian from the time I was 11, 12 years old. So I thought it was right. It was all rainbows and unicorns, basically. So it's well hidden.
Yeah.
Which honestly is what sent me down this spiral of kind of depression for a little bit, because Masons, satanic Luciferian Masons at the very top, teach scripture.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that bothered me deeply for a really long time. And then I think I believe God revealed the answer to me as to why that is because it's true still. The scriptures are still true. It's just they correlate Lucifer to Jesus. They think Jesus was Lucifer. I think is what I understood.
Everything
Or it
everything
is
about
inverted.
is inverted.
It
completely.
takes the truth and inverts it, which is why it looks like the truth, right? It's just
Satan doesn't tell you lies with a little bit of truth. He tells you truth with a little bit of lies.
that
to
was the other
throw
thing
you
I
off.
was just about to say is it's 99% true, but 1% false. And
And
that's
it's always that salvation part that's the false part.
yeah.
You know, the parts that you need for that salvation to be
Absolutely.
redeemed to our Creator is the part that gets twisted. It's never like, you know, we've discussed, I think last week, that, you know, what exactly that sin in the garden was could be interpreted different ways depending on what translation you read, if you read the original language and things like that. And so through prayer, through revelation, what I believe, hopefully that's Lisa coming back in. Let's see. Still don't have a video feed. It won't let me bring her in until we get her video. Lisa, if you can see me, I'm sorry. That sucks. But
So you can't get a video now either?
We can't get her video now either.
Oh,
It won't let me bring her in unless she's got video either, so she can't even hear us, I don't think. But or maybe she can. But there, what I think God's kind of revealed to me with some things is it really bothered me that Jesus was the fulfillment of the prophecy of Daniel in Daniel 9, where he said in the 70 weeks, the anointing, or in 60, you know what, let's just share it so people can see what I'm talking about. After 62 weeks, I'll read the KJV for you, Dawn, okay? And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself, and the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. And he shall confirm a covenant with the many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured out upon the desolate. So a lot of people think this is talking about the Antichrist confirming a covenant. But after a lot of study and revelation, I believe, from the Lord himself, it's talking about the Messiah in 27. It mentions the prince that will come and destroy the city, but it also mentions the Messiah right before that. So I believe 27, because I used to ask myself, why would Jesus come for the 62 weeks and then we hit pause and the Antichrist doesn't come for another 2,000 years to finish that week? That doesn't make any sense to me. And so, and Jesus did say, this is the consummation of the ages.
Yeah.
So like here it says, until the consummation, and it says, what did this person do? It says that in the middle of the 7, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering. That's what Jesus did.
That's right. That's right.
Exactly. And he will set the abomination that causes desolation. And so what I think this means, he sets up the abomination that caused desolation, which was the Pharisees and the Jewish leaders who were descendants of Nephilim, because he said, your father is the devil.
Yeah. Yeah, he sure did.
And Jesus was not a part of that bloodline. That is why Satan tried to corrupt the bloodline by doing the genetic mutations, and in my opinion, impregnating Eve in the first place. That was the whole the fallen angel. Hey, there's Lisa.
Can we hear you?
Can you hear? Oh, there's me again. Lisa?
Still can't hear her.
Here, I'll type in the chat. Lisa, check the chat if you can.
The other thing too, this goes back to what Lisa was saying, and just what's in the patents, what's the symbology. People that don't pay attention to the symbology, and they laugh at that and again and scorn. But I don't know how many people do understand that in their sick, twisted code of conduct for the Luciferian satanic, they believe that they can't force us into anything. They have to have our consent. Yep. So they have to tell us what they're doing. Right?
Exactly. Yes, which is why they put it all on paper.
Right? And they do, even if they're doing it fraudulently or hiding it in plain sight, as long as they tell us and we don't push back, our silence is our consent.
Silence is consent. Yeah.
That is so funny.
That if they have our consent, then they're not going to be held accountable.
Exactly, because it's out there for you to find if you dig deep enough. So technically, it's not a secret.
Absolutely.
And
So
something
I
that
don't think people understand that, that's their code of conduct that they're working by, right? That they believe that they can't force us. They have to give up, we have to give our consent. They tell us. And how did we get to the point where when they tell us, people don't even pay attention to it? Like, I mean, if someone tells you who they are, you should really
they told us, so it can't be bad.
Yeah.
The logic of people who are asleep are, they told us, so they wouldn't tell us if it was actually bad and secret.
Yeah, I guess that's a good
That's
point.
how they see it. That's
I think at this point it's the programming too. It's the programming, it's the fluoride, it's all the other things that they've put into us to control us.
Don't get me started on the fluoride. So I believe
this is like the programming where it's really a good thing. That way, when we do something bad to you, your brain's gonna go and meet. What do they say? The thing that you learn the first is the thing that you learn the best, and you can relearn something, but under stress, you're always going to go back,
revert to the original,
right? To the original. And so I believe that is absolutely.
But they've made us docile. They've made us docile. Yeah. They've made us what's the phrase from Rome?
They've made us sloth.
They've made us slothful. We're fat and happy. We're entertained. What is that? The bread and circus? What is the phrase?
Yeah.
Where if you keep them entertained, they'll never realize they're a slave, or they'll never realize they're engaged.
They've entertained us, and they've filled us full of crud.
Yeah. So something I want to say real quick. Two things you guys just both mentioned that are, I think, important for the audience to know in case they don't know. Lisa mentioned writing things down as spells. It's actually in the book of Enoch, Enoch 1. I recommend Enoch 1. It talks about that man wanted to write and God didn't want them to, but he gave them the ability because they wanted it, right? And so he actually told people not to write it down at the beginning, but then we demanded to be able to write things down. And then that got turned into spell casting, into all of the things. Wow. Which is interesting that they, like you said, they write it down. It's all spells and stuff like that. So that's interesting. And then we talked about how Satan tells the truth sprinkled with lies. So like, I am not New Age. I have studied the New Age deeply. Okay. So I know that this may sound New Age to people who don't study their scriptures or extra canon books they threw out. But here, where Jacob sees God face to face and wrestles with him, and he says he called the place Peniel because he saw God face to face and lived, right? Well, Peniel means pine cone. And pine cone is what your pineal gland looks like. And so the theory is he was meditating, and that our pineal gland is how God communicates to us via visions and prophecy. So the whole purpose of the fluoride in the water is literally to calcify that pineal gland, which is a fact. You can Google that. Does fluoride calcify your pineal gland?
Yep.
And it does.
I knew that.
I believe that's fully the purpose for putting fluoride in the water. Along with making us lazy and docile.
Yeah. I don't doubt that one bit, because again, that's part of the master plan, is just to separate us from God. Right. Yeah. And
to bastardize us as much as possible.
If you can't access your pineal gland and get God, connect to God through that, you're going to look for other pleasures, other things. And that's why when you meditate, you don't empty yourself.
That's right.
Empty. I want to clarify to people what biblical meditation is. Biblical meditation is focusing on God and God alone, prayer, focusing on his miracles, his promises, his works, and just communing with a friend. I know that may sound weird to people who don't practice this, but literally talking to God like your therapist is the best thing you can do, because he's the best therapist. But
how many times did we hear too stories where people had taken specifically the COVID shot and said they couldn't feel God anymore? Right. And we've talked about,
my grandma said that
we know have been under attack from some of these other things that Havana syndrome, that they feel cut off from God, like they have a hard time reconnecting. So this is absolutely all designed to separate us from our being able to communicate with God. Absolutely.
And the gentleman that we played a little bit of last week, Patch, I can't remember, Anthony Patch, I think was his name. Definitely look up his videos. But we talked about
AnthonyPatch.com or something, right? Here. I'll have it scroll across the ticker.
He's got all the science stuff too, and that's what we've talked about with the 5G and them trying to get the nanotechnology into us, that's another thing that it does. And I wish I could go back. He's got an article that talks about prayer and what prayer actually is. And it's this quantum,
it's focusing your energy towards God, like
Yes.
giving worship. That's what it all is. Have you ever gone to a concert and they say, put your hands in the air, and you put your hands in the air and you're like, and you're doing that. And they say, I say this, you say this. And they go back and forth. That is all a form of meditation and prayer and worship. All of that is.
Yep.
And so when we go to church and we have our hands up and we're doing that, and you go to a Cardi B concert and you see the same thing, it's a worship. That's what they're on an altar.
Right.
They're providing sound vibrations that affect your body and your movements and your cells, which is why so many people died at the concerts that activated the 5G when they went.
That was bizarre. That was really bizarre.
Yeah.
And have you noticed you don't hear anything about it at all? So
and then it was going. It was like, this should be a bigger story, you would think, since it's young people that died. Yeah, I was like, totally.
Yeah, and then they tried to say it was because of the crowd. There's Lisa. Let's see if it worked. Lisa, can you talk? Gosh dang.
No, that's.
I don't know if you can hear me or not, but if you can, go to settings, audio, and then input, and then a list will drop down. Make sure when you talk that when you click one, the green bars are moving, and we'll be able to hear you.
Yeah, just play around with it and see if there's another.
Sorry about that, Lisa. Gosh, man.
She's frozen too.
Yeah, we need to figure out. I wish I could go there in person and help her out, get her stuff all set up. But
bizarre. I don't think it's her stuff. I think she.
There are ways to help avoid some of this, and one of them being, I have some now. I don't usually recommend products unless I use them myself. But Hope and Devon, who do the EMF protection stuff, I have those around my computer and I don't have issues anymore. I also have a direct connection with the EMF protection on my router, and I never have these issues anymore. So,
interesting.
Yeah, the link will be in the description if you're interested in getting some EMF protection from Hope and Devon. But something that I think people should know, because I don't believe in a singular antichrist. I believe in the many antichrists. I believe there are many people who qualify. But there is a beast system, which again is comprised of many things, but is one purpose, goal.
Yeah.
And I think that purpose is to evolve humanity.
Yep.
And that comes in with direct injections. Bypassing all of our natural body safety functions and going directly into our body via injection.
Adding a third strand of DNA
made out of silicone and gold, right?
Yeah.
And that just sounds horrific to me. And how anybody could sit there and call that godly. People say things to me all the time like, well, do you use the internet? The internet's not natural. God didn't make the internet, or God made the internet, or something like that. And I'm like, no, we made the internet, and God uses the evil for good. Okay, so there are good things that come from the internet, but there's also mass evil on the internet. So
absolutely,
I can't tell you God gave us internet, but He sure uses it for good.
Yeah.
It's been.
You know what, dude? There's a whole lot that we're probably doing that we probably shouldn't be doing, but we're
birthdays. People say things like birthdays. Whenever people bring up Christmas, I say things like, do you celebrate birthdays? Because it's the same thing. It ain't in the Bible. Jesus had a birthday. He was a Messiah. So I feel like he's a little different.
Yeah. I think there's grace for a lot of it, especially stuff that not that we can't help it, but I think that's also part of our all of our own individual spiritual journeys with God and our relationships with God, is that we need to be sensitive to what He puts on our heart.
You, Lisa. Sorry.
You can?
Yes. Yay.
Okay. Sorry, Dawn. I'm sorry this was so disruptive, but I literally was getting kicked out. Somebody does not like what we're saying. I mean, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, me either. Yeah. I'll have to send you a direct connection thing. And I was talking as you were leaving. I have a bunch of Hope and Tavon's EMF protection around my desktop and on my router with a direct connection, and I don't have these issues. Maybe I should send you the cord I got, and then maybe talk to Hope and Devon and hook you up. So
Yes.
And that link will be in the description for people if anybody's interested in that. But I have to have it because I'm the producer. If I can't have a good connection, we're all screwed, aren't we? So,
Yeah.
but Lisa, while we have you, do you have any input that you want to shove in?
Well, and I'm sorry for the disruptions, and what you were saying was so wonderful. I mean, it's so great what we're talking about. And, just listening, and again, through the research, that so many people are finding the discoveries of the real agenda to this. And, I early on, this was probably a year and a half ago, I was struggling with the research and just really hit a wall like, oh my gosh, what is this? It was just draining me. And I grew up Catholic, very, a practicing Catholic. My family are wonderful. But you did not read the Bible as a Catholic. You were not encouraged to read the Bible. The priests and the nuns they decided what you needed to hear from the Bible, and they interpreted it from the Bible for you. So I picked it up. I later on in life, I started reading it, and it was so interesting because I was struggling, and Todd had actually had me working on this transmutation a year and a half ago, finding out with the Army, because the DOD uses that term regularly, consistently. And so I just punched in biblical transmutation, Google search, and up comes Genesis chapter 1, or Genesis book 1, chapters 20 through 30. And I never read it. I mean, I never read 20 to 30. And it is this beautiful homeostasis, serene environment for humanity. We share one another's frequencies. We pick up on if somebody is depleted of it. Man and everybody, is equal and gets along. There's no control. There's no alterations. And all of a sudden it clicked to me, you guys, it's like, this is Agenda 2030. It is the antithesis of this. Yeah, and it is, it is a machine. It is an AI based, it's a hacking, and they're mining humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing it.
I actually have the government. I have the government document of talking about the cyborg soldiers. I'm going to pull that up.
Yes. Yeah, and Noah Harari, we're hackable beings. I mean, they admit that. Yeah.
And when we're seeing that now with all the research with the wireless body area networks, the devices, Dawn, are targeted individuals. We are all targeted individuals because I did want to share this. This was on the slideshow, so hopefully we can do this again, and I'll get that working and figure out how to share it. But the NIH library database, Homo sapiens are viewed as a virus, as a pathogen. What? There are over 45,000 mutated genes and over 500,000 mutated converted proteins that make up Homo sapien. The definition that they the definition that they use for Homo sapien, this is the database, is it talks about a species, and then it goes on to say man is used for experimental purposes.
Well, and that goes back to the case that we've talked about from the very beginning of all of this madness that came out by the Supreme Court in 2013-ish, 2015 era, that said, essentially, if you alter its genes to where it's not natural, you own it. And the legal implication of that was it didn't matter whether it was a human being or not. If they altered our genetic makeup with something unnatural, they could own us. We were ownable. And that's what that sounds like. That's just another piece of that. And it's like, how long has that been going on?
It's also been going on as long as the federal corporation has been, right? I mean, we know that we're a corporate entity, and when they changed us into corporate entities and they changed us into debt slaves and changed us into chattel, they own. I mean, their whole mentality has been they own us. No matter whether it's financial slaves or biological slaves.
Right? Of that scientific phrase that you just said has been used to label us Homo sapiens. What if that's not even the original human being.
Exactly. Dawn,
Right.
Well,
that's you. I've
there's-
thought about that a lot.
There's a woman that I used to follow. I haven't really seen her. I wish I could remember her name because she is really good for some stuff. She believes in like, how do I say this? That God basically, how do I say this? He created the world, right? And then it was formless and void. And then God created man on it, but man was originally that caveman type, what we picture when we think cavemen. And that God directed his evolution to get where we are now, right? Because that's what she thinks it means by upright. Noah was upright. Obviously, we disagree. That doesn't mean he's upright walking around and he's different than the chimp man. Like, I don't believe that. I believe upright meaning righteous and close to God. But there's people who believe that the line of Cain was this caveman kind of, because they call him hairy. In the book of Enoch, I get why people get that, because it says that they're hairy, which is where Bigfoot, people think that the Bigfoot that people see are actually those line of Cain that's underground. Man, I've done down so many rabbit holes. I hope I'm not, shooting anybody to there. But there is that theory that some people have that, hey, science is proving God. Science, like the evolution, which I don't believe in evolution, and what Charles Darwin claimed it was. But the theory of evolution, they say, is proven, and it does prove God. But what it proves to me is that the fallen angels have been doing the directed evolution. Because or the guided evolution, forced evolution, whatever. And it tells you that in Enoch that basically the watchers were only supposed to watch over mankind and protect them. And then they started lusting after the women, went down as in the form of men in physical bodies, had sex with those women. They created the Nephilim. And then it says that those fallen watchers also corrupted the animals of the land and sea, which we talked about last time. So there's your hybrid of your demons, because the curse over those Nephilim was that they would wander the earth and be called evil spirits. So anyway,
there's something, if we have time, I wanted just to bring this up too, because this is a significant role and a key part of all of this is radiation. So radiation is a natural, from what I've researched, I truly believe that radiation is cellular biological radiation that we generate is nuclear energy. It is free. It's clean. It was meant to be clean. The sun radiates down onto the earth. The minerals, they create an electrical charge that goes through each electrical being of humanity. So it's this constant cycle of free energy that is being dispersed when it is uncorrupted. So radiation, so also with alchemy, the practice of turning these resources into a more advanced state, a more higher quality from ordinary resources. So our biological resources and this concept of transmuting them into something more beneficial for those that are, trying to capture them. Well, they discovered early on that radiation aids those chemicals. More charged radiation is going to cause the transmutation to happen at a more rapid pace, at a more successful rate. So you think of radiation of being this pure form of life sustenance that we needed, that we generate. Our cells radiate. They radiate inside. When a cell is about ready to die,
everything puts off a frequency vibration.
Yes. And it radiates.
Everything.
Yes. So they've altered that. They've taken that, they've altered that, and then recycled those mutated format back right into these vaccines and viruses. This bacteria, ladies, and we've shared this before, but people need to understand it goes in pre-programmed at gamma irradiated levels. That is such an advanced, the spectrum of those bacteria. So these yeast and parasites are electrical. They're going in as a device. They're going in pre-programmed with a job to do. They have been, and they can be triggered on command by 5G, and when you are irradiated, when a component has been treated with radiation, it has a memory bank, so it will immediately be drawn to that charge because it's been programmed with it. It recognizes it. So radiation has also been this, it was a source of life as energy, as sustenance. And that too has been, taken and hijacked and mutated.
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
You
what
know-
I was reading that the other night, saw something where the heart, and again, it makes perfect sense as to why they targeted the heart with a lot of this stuff, but that it radiates 6 feet. Its
Yes.
energy, right, and its frequency radiates at least 6 feet away from, which is why when you come into proximity of somebody that is got right, you have this visceral reaction, right?
Yes.
So I mean,
Yes.
it totally makes sense though too why again they hijack the heart. This is very, very near and dear to God, near, right, our way of our intuition and all of that stuff. I
Absolutely,
mean,
Chris. Well, when you think of clogged arteries, they produce these illness, these foreign invaders that cause our bodies to fight back so valiantly and so triumphantly, but yet we're just bombarded consistently with the chemicals, these serums of transmutation. And so our bodies then generate these illnesses and diseases, but then they just recapture those and recycle them. I mean, it's so extremely, and not to get Debbie Downer, but it's diabolical. But we do need to, this is the elephant in the room. This is what they are doing.
Yeah.
Our bodies are going to compensate. We are meant to heal ourselves. The body is meant to be self-healing, right? So it's going to try valiantly to protect itself, but when it's been so corrupted, it's not going to be able to do that in the manner that it was meant to do it, right?
Well,
and so
and that's
compensation, and you've got another dysfunction, right? It's all about creating dysfunction.
Well, so could that be? This is what I think. Could we be in that? I kept thinking of we're still in the prototype. We haven't, they haven't quite figured it out. But actually, and again, this is really dark. But could this be what it is? This is the forced evolution is illness.
Mm-hmm.
It is creating, because our bodies are supposed to be pristine and not have that. We are not supposed to have autoimmune diseases.
They're literally making the problem, creating the fix. But if they would just stop causing the problem, there wouldn't be a fix.
But there's that. But I think part of it is a control thing, which that would make sense why they need us weak, sickened and weak.
They want us fat.
They want,
and the financial, the financial component, Dawn, is the illnesses. I mean, they make them trillions of dollars.
Yeah, that too.
It's the supply and demand. But
it's the same thought process and the same playbook. Create the crisis, and then come in as the savior. We have the answer to it all. And people are, they've created this crisis, so people are looking for an answer. That doesn't matter what movement, what ideology, what radical ideology, that's the same formula, right?
Yes, it's an abusive relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I know we're getting close.
Something to remember. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just something to remember. God's in control. We know through the story of Job, nobody dies without God's say. So the way I look at all things, even tragedies, like there's a reason for everything. And even though it's sad and we miss them here with us, they're not all, but some people are experiencing some of the most amazing thing that you would be jealous of them if you knew the truth of what they're truly experiencing. Last Friday, we had Daniel Rudy on. Really liked him, and he had a near-death experience. And off camera, I asked him about it. I was like, what happened? Like, tell me, and he goes, oh, it's not sexy, but, because, some people have all these like really crazy details that are like amazing. He goes, basically he experienced pure peace and bliss and comfort. Then he heard a voice say, it's not your time. And boom, he was sucked back into his body. And he said, that's when I decided to believe in God, because there was clearly somebody who was in control of that
out there. Yeah.
And so we shouldn't have this fear.
No.
That, oh my God, there's nothing I can do. Everything's poison. I need to check every ingredient list. I need to totally flee any civilian life and go live out in the middle of nowhere. While that might be nice, I mean, that does sound kind of nice, we don't all have that option. And it's important to remember God is in control. God knows your heart and your intentions behind everything. So I don't like to sit here. I'm not here to preach at people that the vaccine is the mark of the beast. I don't believe that. But let's say you are a Christian, and let's say you got it at the beginning because you have a sick, frail grandmother, and you fell into the lie that, oh, you won't get your grandma sick. It protects the people that are, have all these frail people and everything. So you got it to protect your mom, not knowing what it was actually doing. You believe the lie. I think God knows the difference between someone like that and someone who heard all the truth, still just got it because they were afraid. When you make choices in fear, it affects your frequency. And again, I hate the new age terms, but you know what I mean? Like they say aura, don't they?
Yeah.
They say aura or something, which is just
your I think we've been programmed to believe don't use the language because it actually is the truth, right? I mean, I think some of this programming,
it's the modern word,
new age, because I don't, but I'm just saying in terms of us, like you're saying, I don't want to use that word. It's the truth, right?
It's the truth. It's right. Absolutely. Our bodies technically and physically radiate. They technically put off an aura when you're happy. They put off an aura when you're when you're sad. There is an energy that others pick up on. Yeah, that's physical. That's not new age. That's light. That's reality. Right?
Yes, and Satan steals from that to corrupt it, because new age teaches that we are all God. Everything's God. God has his signature and everything. We're all a part of God's masterpiece. I certainly believe that, but we ourselves are just man, which is much less than God.
We are the creation. We are not the
creation.
Yep. Amen. Yeah. I know. I feel like each of us has a cellular. It's an energy. It's a music, and we're all part of his orchestra. But he's the conductor.
Yeah. Right. That's the bottom line for me. We're told in the Bible that we can do all the things that Jesus did and more.
Amen.
Right. And that's what they're trying to prevent us from learning.
Absolutely.
That's what they're cutting us off from, our power to do what Jesus did, and the good that Jesus did, and the love and and the healing and all of that stuff. That's what they're trying to keep from us. Bottom line.
His trust, right? His trust in what his role was, his trust in his walk, his trust in his voice, his trust in his message, which brings strength.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. And so don't be out there worried, everybody. God's in control. He's got it. And even if somebody maybe passes what we would perceive before our time, we don't see the ripple effect that has, that could be good and positively change somebody's life. Everybody's life has a purpose and meaning. And so I try to look at everything that may be viewed as a tragedy as, God's hand doing something, because we know that God's hand is always good. And I know sometimes that might be hard, because when we see it appears like evil is winning, we think Satan's winning. But in reality, God is the all-controlling, all-knowing Father who has a line drawn that won't be crossed. And how do I say this? People always say, well, where is God? Where is he? He's waiting. He's waiting patiently for those that would be saved and come to the knowledge of the truth and repent. That's what he's waiting on. That's the only reason that we are delayed wrath. Because he loves us so much, he wants as many of us to come to him as possible.
Amen.
So,
yes.
Amen. But we are out of time, ladies. So do you have any final thoughts or send-offs?
This was great. Lots of different
thank you for letting me come in and out.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to have you back again, where you can share those slides and we can talk more in depth about some of the technical stuff for sure. But this was
also talking about having a longer show, because there's just not enough time to talk about it.
Well, thanks for having me on. It was wonderful, and you are doing such a good job just talking about this, because this really is it just needs to be. We just need to start talking about it, and just talking more and more and getting confident in that talk and sharing it, because it is what we are living in.
And putting the pieces of the puzzle together, because so much we categorize this stuff as, oh, that's technical, that's biological, that's scientific, and over here is God, and that's spiritual, when there is so much interconnectedness into this. And we've got to start thinking broader, right? And
Yes.
we've got to wake people up to the fact that this is all connected. They've got
All
us
of it.
couched here, and it is not. It is all interconnected.
Yep.
And seek God first and foremost.
Seek God first.
He
Yep.
will answer you.
Like,
Amen.
let go of the fear and unforgiveness and hate in your heart.
Yep.
God will be much more involved and evident in your life if you
Yep.
don't have fear, hatred, and unforgiveness.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and just really, really quick too, the beauty of this is that, when you look at it, the reason why they're coming after humanity so disgustingly and cruelty is because we are the source of light through that. I mean, we replicate that, we radiate that literally. And that is what they want to capture. And, we're too strong for that. We are really just.
And they want to destroy God.
We are the most amazing machine ever made. No one can replicate it. No one can duplicate it. No one can create life and end life yet, at least with a soul or spirit.
Right.
But anyways, all right. Well, after this, we've got an episode of In the Lion's Den with Dr. Bill Lionberger and special guest, Dr. Anna Mahelcha, one of our favorite doctors. We love her.
Mm-hmm.
And so make sure to check that out. And then every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, you've got Know Your Rights with Dawn and Chris. So make sure to tune in weekly for that. And if you like our content, please like, share, and comment and subscribe, because we can only grow with your support. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless everyone.
Everybody.
You too.
Bye.
Good to